Rugby Championship round 5. The second game from Townsville this weekend is going to be the Wallabies taking on the Pumas. The Wallabies will be trying to finish as high as they can. They can't mathematically win the competition. Remember, the All Blacks have all but wrapped things up. But the Wallabies have certainly turned their season around with back-to-back wins over the reigning world champions. And the Pumas, well, it needs to be better. They're none from 4. They are yet to pick up a single point. The stats tell us that ball in hand, with attack, man, their game has struggled, but we did see some encouraging signs from young man Santiago Carreras at 10 last week, so we will see how he goes. We've got the lineups, some of the stats, the predictions, and as always, you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one's going to go. As I mentioned, it's from Townsville. This is the second of the 2 games, so it's kind of a late kickoff. It's like 10 o'clock over here in New Zealand. So it'll be like kind of early evening, mid-evening, because the All Blacks game is on late afternoon, so it's an early evening game. Locally, I think it's on Stan Sports in Australia, Sky Sports here in New Zealand, Flow Rugby for you guys in the States. If you are in the States and you want to watch on Flow Rugby, there's now a link to Flow Rugby here on the 2 Cents channel, so happy days. Being in talks with Flow Rugby, so if you want to sign up via Flow Rugby, please do it at the link below. We are now affiliated, so yeah, happy days. I haven't yet managed to get a discount from them for you guys, but I'll see if I can work on it kind of thing. I think the link only works for people in the States or on a VPN. The lineups though, it's Slipper, Fainga'a, and Tupou for the Wallabies, so that's the same as it was last week. And Tupou ended up playing like 78 minutes. So he's a proper unit and continues to be, man. He is just such a good guy getting over the advantage line. Rodda and Phillips, the same lock and duo. So it's the same type 5 that we saw really put the pressure on last week. Leota, interestingly, comes in at number 6. It's his first start for the Wallabies. He's got 1 cap as a sub. Didn't play last week, but he is back in. He replaces Lockie Swinton. Michael Hooper's still there at 7 and Valetini's there at 8. So good chance for Leota because he's a different player from Swinton. Leota is just that kind of, again, I use the phrase big unit. He's a big unit. He plays for the Rebels. He likes to carry the ball, kind of can play lock as well, but as a loosey, he's very impactful. So, yeah, let's see how he goes. White and Cooper is the same 19 combo, so a lot of experience there. There's still no sign of Noah Lolosio, but James O'Connor is there on the bench, so we kind of expect to see him slot in somewhere at some point. Pretty versatile guy. Wouldn't be surprising to see him slot in at 10, but I suppose he could go numerous other positions as well. Kerevi and Ikitau is proving to be a pretty useful 12 and 13 combo, aren't they? So they continue on. Kerevi's made a huge impact since he's come back. His defenders beaten count is just huge. He's not even played every game. Koroibete, Kellaway, and Hodge is the back 3. Remember, Tom Banks hurt his arm. He's going to be up for a wee while. So Reece Hodge gets the call at 15. The dude ain't great under the high ball. I'm going to say that right now. He's going to need to be better. I hope they just practiced kicking him high ball after high ball. But you can never doubt the dude's work rate. He's a busy player. He's got a big cannon boot on him as well. So, yeah, fingers crossed. He's not slow either, but I feel like he does take a wee while to get up to speed. When he gets those first couple of strides in, if you let him get that far, he's actually quite quick. But it's about him kind of finding that space. And at fullback, maybe he will kind of find that space if he decides to run the ball. Kellaway's also been pretty bloody good this year as well. He scored, I think, 3 tries, so one of the top try scorers in the competition. So certainly no slouch. Kaitu'u's been a really impressive guy to have in as the reserve hooker. Remember, they've been kind of rotating several different guys. Ulisse and Fainga'a as well. So Kaitu'u's kind of staked the claim to be one of the top 2 guys, at least in the last few weeks. He's been really good, very physical. Bell, Robertson, the replacement props. Swain, Samu, McDermott, O'Connor, as I mentioned, and Petaia are there. So the only guys out, I think, are Swinton and Banks. So, yeah, good to see Samu. Samu's pretty versatile. He's been having impact from the bench as well. McDermott and White, what did they call them in the pre-match thing with Nick White? Kind of like a 2-punch combo or something like that. They seem to complement each other pretty well. So, yeah, pretty pleasing to see the Wallabies after the last 2 rounds anyway. It was all doom and gloom a couple of weeks ago, and now things are kind of riding high as they go into Townsville. For the Pumas, like I mentioned, we probably need to see a bit of improvement defensively. They've actually looked pretty good, man. Their numbers are good, and if you've watched the games, you'll have been impressed sometimes by the way they've defended and made teams really work to get forward. But they've had bugger all going forward for themselves. So, Hikena, Montoya, and Medrano is the same front row as last week. Alemano and Lavanini is the same locking duo, and Gonzalez, Crema, and Matera is the same back row. So it's the same forward pack that went into that game last week. Guys I've been impressed with. I mean, Crema got through a bunch of tackles last week. Likewise, Juan Martin Gonzalez. He's been a bit of a revelation. I didn't know much about him prior to this tournament, but he's come in and just shown he likes to kind of like, tackle the house down. What they're kind of lacking at the moment is a big loose forward who's really going to get you over the advantage line, like what the Wallabies expect to see from Leota in this game, like what we've seen from Ikitau from the All Blacks. They need that guy who's going to get them over the advantage line. You can't just be relying on Carreras. Carreras, I think, is the only guy who's got any good numbers in like the defenders beaten department, which is a bit concerning. Bertrand and Carreras are the 19 combo, so Carreras is still preferred to Miotti, and I think rightly so based on what we saw last week. I would have questioned it a bit last week. But yeah, Carreras, for a guy who's going to take the ball to the line, add a bit of pace to the game, and not essentially be solely a playmaker. If that's what you want, then Carreras is definitely your guy. Chocobaras and Sinti are the 12-13 combo, and kind of likewise, they lack a big unit in the midfield. They don't really have a guy at the moment who is going to truck the ball up. I've always been a big fan of De La Fuente. He's obviously not with the squad at the moment, but he's more of a playmaker as well. So I do feel a little bit they need someone who's going to really carry the ball into contact, like a Dealende, like a Kerevi, or someone with just out and out gas, like a Juan, who's really going to find those small gaps and being able to get through them. But these guys, Chocobaras and Sinti, are very young. So they'll be learning from week to week. So fingers crossed they can get some ball and take it into contact this week. Boffelli, Cordero, and Malia are the outside backs. And Boffelli was really impressive last week as well. He's maybe the guy I'm going to look for. Cordero hasn't had as much impact. But again, they've been a bit starved of the ball. So fingers crossed they can get some go forward this week. I'll get to the stats in a second, but the bench, Socino is still there. Rodrigo Martinez comes in for Muzio, so he's going to be on his debut as the replacement loosehead. Pierretto is still there. Petty is still there. Joaquin Oviedo is also going to get his debut if he comes on. I don't know a lot about him. Garcia, Miotti, and Mateo Carreras comes in for Moroni. So 3 debutants on the Argentinian bench. I wish those guys all the best. I promised some stats. Stats, man. Defensively, both sides have looked pretty solid, and despite the fact that both sides had a fair few points put on them by the All Blacks, interestingly, like the Wallabies struggled a bit against the All Blacks. Like we saw that. It was evident. Their tackling percentage in the Rugby Championship, 82%, which is actually not terrible, although they did ship a few points. It's at the lower end of kind of what's good. But against the Springboks, the Wallabies put in some huge shifts, 94%. That's amazing. That's quite amazing. To be in the 90s is very good. Speaks to how well they were defending. So they defended much better against the Boks than they did against the All Blacks. Flip that around though for the Pumas, because the Pumas 83% against the Boks, against the All Blacks 87%. So the Pumas actually made the All Blacks really work for it. I know the All Blacks still scored a few points, but they had to go through phase after phase after phase to actually break them down. So improving defense from both sides, interestingly. So that could mean these games are going to be pretty tight. We will see. Tries scored is one area that I'd be a bit worried if I'm a Pumas fan, because they've scored 2 in the whole Rugby Championship so far. So you have 4 games, 2 tries. It's not a good return when the likes of Kellaway's got 3 on his own. Koroibete has got 2. So yeah, that's a wee bit troubling, honestly. Clean breaks, average per game 9-3. So the Wallabies generating a fair bit of go forward ball. Penalties conceded as an area which is a bit concerning for both sides. 14. Sides like to keep it 10 or below. Average 14 apiece. So based on these, you could see 2 defenses who are going to go head to head and concede a ton of penalties. But fingers crossed, it's not like that. Defenders beaten, as I mentioned, the average is 20 to 15, with the Wallabies having a few more. Not actually that kind of night and day. It's the clean breaks, which is more contrasting in their styles. But it's Kerevi, it's Koroibete. These guys Tupou as well, getting the Wallabies over the advantage line. For the Pumas, the only guy who stands out is Kerevi, which is a little bit concerning because he's your number 10 in recent times. I know he's been an outside back in the past, but yeah, he needs some support from his loosies, from his other outside backs, from his midfield. I don't know. Last 5 between these teams, it is a bit of a mixed bag, man. The last 2 games have been draws. The last one was a 16-all draw. So last year, the Wallabies weren't really able to crack the Pumas down. Prior to that, you've got 2 wins to the Wallabies and 1 to the Pumas. So slight advantage to the Wallabies. But the games have been really tight. The average score across these last 5 games is 22-20 to the Wallabies. So very, very little between these sides. The bookies, though, are saying the Wallabies by 9. Interestingly, the Rugby Forecast algorithm kind of goes with the last 5 and says the Wallabies by 2. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, the Aussie rugby at the moment is flying high. It's a really good thing to see after, as I mentioned, kind of a bit of negativity after the games against the All Blacks, but they've shown what they can do. Maybe we need to see a bit of the same from the Pumas at the moment because, as I mentioned, defensively they've been pleasing. But you can't win just with defence alone. You need to be able to get some tries or get some points on the board, and that's kind of an area they have struggled pretty badly in the Rugby Championship this year. So anyway, we will see how things go. Wallabies are the favourites. What do you guys reckon? Are they going to get it done in Townsville? Or do you think the Pumas are going to surprise us? Because at the moment, it kind of seems like each team, like the Wallabies troubled the Box, but the All Blacks troubled the Wallabies. Is it going to be that the Pumas trouble the Wallabies? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. But anyway, you guys have any thoughts? And I will talk to you guys soon. See you later.